Today you're going to be mixing the world of 3D through the use of Blender with web design like this and that. Before we begin, this video's sponsor is Linode, and they make it easy and affordable to host your site, app, or service on whatever technology stack you use. Unlike entry-level hosting services, Linode is a step up to powerful, fast, fully configurable cloud computing. With server plans starting at just $5 plus no hidden fees or surprise outages, Linode offers a no-nonsense hosting at a price you can afford. So sign up now using the link below to get a $20 credit on your new Linode account. Hey everyone, what's up? Gary Simon of CourseSetzer.com. So today we're going to be hopping into the world of a real 3D application, and that is called Blender. It's 100% free and it's very powerful. It's at version 2.8, which is a huge update, and it's really makes it a lot easier to work with. So we're going to create this little scene right here that you see. It's kind of like a very simplistic cityscape background, if you will. I also did another version of this before I recorded the tutorial you're about to watch, and that looks like this one right here, except it's kind of like a light version. But yeah, I did just learning a 3D tool like this is very fun, and it's also helpful as a UI designer if you ever have to implement simple 3D elements into your UIs. All right, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and let's get started. All right, so yes, once again, I am a floating head because of my green sponsors, Linode t-shirt. Maybe I'll just keep on always doing this just because there's less than me to show. It's just my head. Anyhow, so right here is the project that we're going to create or try to recreate from scratch. And if I hit F12 on here, we'll get a quick render of what this kind of looks like. As you can see, it's kind of washed out, and we're going to be making adjustments to it after in Photoshop and adding kind of like the blue line here. So after you have Blender 2.8 or whatever version afterwards installed, we're going to create just a new project here. Discard changes. And here we go. So if you've never used Blender before, just a couple keyboard shortcuts that you should be familiar with. If you want to look around, you hit your middle mouse button and you just hold it, and then you can move your mouse. To pan, it's Shift and middle mouse button. Zoom is your scroll wheel, okay? There's of course a massive amount to learn in this, this application, but we're only going to be using maybe about like 5% of it, if that, to create this scene. So you'll see that even though it's extremely robust and capable, you don't really need to know it in and out to create very simple things. So it gives you a cube by default to start with. Just a couple other shortcuts. Right now we're just kind of in the user perspective view. If you use your number pad and hit like number 7, we'll see we're on the top view. 9 will give you bottom view, so we're looking from the bottom up. 1 on the number pad will give you front, and then 3 will give you from the right side. And then 0 will give us a camera view, but we'll get into that in a little bit. To get out of either one of these views, we just hold the middle mouse button and just move around, and then we're switched automatically into user perspective view. So what we want to do is we want to take this cube and we want to move it around. To move it around, and we're also going to scale it, but to move it around, you hit the G key. Now, automatically, we just move it around with our mouse, but if we want it to stay on one of the 3 axes, or axi, or axi, I don't even know. Which one is it? I don't know. It would be, you can hit X for X, so you hit GX for moving it on the X axis, Y on the Y, or Z for Z. All right, so for us, we want to move this. For now, we're going to keep this one right here. However, we're going to move it up on the Z axis so that it's sitting on top of here. Now, if I hit Shift A, we're going to add a plane. We're going to hit S for scale, and we're going to make it quite large. All right, so right here, if we go to our front view, see it's the actual plane is hidden because it's on the x-axis. That's where it's set by default. But if we zoom up, we'll see it's not sitting down here. So we hit G, Z, and then just move down. So now it's sitting right on top of that little, really what this is going to serve is like a road between the very simple cityscape that we're going to create. We want to make this one larger. So for larger, again, scale, or just as with move, we can hit, if we want to scale on the x-axis, we could do that, y, or z. So we'll come up right around there, G, Z to get that position back up. All right, so what we want to do is replicate this a few times and just switch it up a little bit. And we want to, for these ones, we're going to keep them on this axis right here, which is the y-axis. So what we can do is switch to our front view, hit G, or not, before we do that rather, we're going to hit Shift D, that will duplicate it, and we move it around. We don't want to freely move it around. We want to move it around on the Y, or no, I guess it's the X-axis right here, and just put it right there to where there's a little bit of space in between it. And then G, or S rather, and we'll scale on the Z-axis. So to make it just a little bit different in terms of size. All right, so now if we go back into free look, we have our second building. So again, we'll do that one more time, and then I'll just kind of speed up a few more. We want 5 or 6 of these. So we'll go back to front view, which is 1 on the number pad. Shift D duplicates, X, S, and for scale on the Z axis, maybe we'll make this one a little bit taller, and then G, Z. All right, hopefully you understand it now so far. So we're gonna do this maybe 2 or 3 more times. Real quickly though, what we could do to save ourselves some time, you hold Shift, left click, and select these 3, and go into front view, Shift D, and then go ahead and hit X and just move them over. So now we can just take them, let me move them over a little bit further, there we go. We'll just take these and you can scale them up just a little bit differently. So S, Z, and then we'll G, Z it to move it on the Z axis. This one, we'll do scale it on the Z axis, and then G and Z, and that's fine. Right here is cool for me. I'm happy with it. So now use a perspective view. That's kind of like the beginning of our city right here. So now what we can do is, if we want to create like a city block, we can, let's go into top view. And for now, let's hide that plane just so we can see these. And I'm going to take all of these and we're going to Shift D, and then we will, let's see here, we'll rotate it. And I believe we can put 90, just type in 90 and then enter, and then we can G and just move it, yeah, perhaps right there. I know it's not going to be an actual square the way we have it set up, but right there is fine. And then we can come back here and let's go to top view, take these, Shift D, move them over here. And then finally, we'll just take these. So you can left click and just drag to select them. Make sure you don't select a light or anything like that. Shift D. Right there. Doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so there's our very basic city. Now we want to create a bunch of these, and a good way to do it outside of just replicating these a bunch of times is to use an array modifier, which will quickly allow us to create multiple variations of these little cityscapes. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to merge everything. Let's get our light out of there. Take this light, just left click, hit G, just move it over here. We'll get that position differently pretty soon. So we're going to click on the little wrench icon to add a modifier, and we're going to choose array. So you can see it automatically duplicates it, and you can see the count is set at 2. So if we adjusted this to like, 3 or whatever, we'll get 3. It also allows you to specify which way it's going to place these other clones essentially. For this one, let's space these out. I think right around there is pretty good for like a city road between them. All right, and then we will go ahead and add another modifier, the same type of modifier, and this time we're going to put 0 here, and instead we're going to put 1 here. Instead, this is 1.3. We want to make this 1.3 as well. Sort of like that. So what we can do now is just hit apply and apply. If we want to do it one more time, we can do it as well. So 1.3 here. Ooh, we don't want to do 1.3 there. There we go. It's just 1.05 or so. Yeah, probably 0.06. All right, right around there is good. We just wanted to have enough duplicates of these so that if they're off far in the distance based on a perspective, it will show it. You know, it won't be empty, you know, at all. So let me do one more, and we'll come down here. 1.05, and this one will be 0. All right, there we go. So now what we need to do is we're going to hit 0 on the number pad to go back into our camera view. Now, if we move around, it's not going to allow us to change this camera position. So we have to hit N, as in Nancy, on your keyboard, and then go to View, and then click Lock Camera to View. It's basically something you do every single time with a Blender project if you want to get your camera position set up properly. So now, using your mouse scroll wheel, holding Shift in your middle mouse button, you can try to get locked into the angle that you want. All right. Let's bring back our plane here. As we can see, it's only over here. Let's go to 7. And let's hit G and scale it up. There we go. So we'll go back to our camera view. And if you want an interesting sort of perspective, I thought it looked kind of cool. What we can do is we get out of here. If we select these objects and the plane, we can rotate it just slightly. If we go back into our camera view, it's going to have an interesting sort of tilt. You don't have to do that, but it's something I'm choosing to do. All right, so, all right. I'm trying to think about the rule of thirds, or the golden ratio as it's called. You want your focal point to kind of be not an exact center, but I want this building to be visible, which means we're going to have to remove this building right here so that we can see things clearly, like the road. All right, so getting out of there, if I hit 0 again just to get out, this is the one that we want to remove. So what I'm going to do, let's hit apply here for these, is go from object mode to edit mode. This allows us to select the individual vertices. So if I just take these 4 points at the top and hit delete, then we'll go ahead and have, you know, better access to seeing this road. So I'm trying to think about, you know, if I go back into my camera view, you know, we want to have kind of like a blue line indicating a person's path or something. So I really want to be able to see that line as much as possible. So I might end up deleting a few of these. So if I select this one, for instance, we'll just delete that. We're not going to see these at the bottom. Maybe I'll delete this one too. All right. Something like right here I think would be fine. So we'll be able to see it, this blue line coming through right around here. fairly decently. And I almost want to delete this one too, just because I want to see more of that blue line that we're going to do in Photoshop. Maybe I should have left that. Let's go ahead and leave that one. Okay, so we'll say this is good for us and our purposes so far. So if we want to see what this looks like renders, we can hit F12. And right now, of course, you can barely even see anything. That's because of our light is way over there. So if we hit 7, and then we move this to where our camera is. The camera's right there. Hit 0 again. Let's see what happens now. All right, so that's what it looks like. Not that exciting, honestly. I think we might want to zoom out just a little bit more. And we'll take these two elements, hold Shift, and then we'll G just to move them. There we go. Let's see here. Let's do an F12 to see what this one looks like. Okay, so now we have a lot more detail in this. Okay, so we'll go ahead and now at this point, we can come over here to the world view. I want to lighten things up. So what we can do is change this darker color. All right, and come more to the mid area. And I kind of want it to have like a blue fill. So let's hit F12 and see what happens there after doing that. All right, so we've done quite a bit more. Let's click on this light and then click on the light properties. And we can increase this maybe from 1,000 to 10,000. Let's see what that does to the result. All right, so it lightens it up quite a bit more. You can, if you want, untick shadows to see what that does. I kind of like doing that a little bit better. Right now, the quality of this isn't the greatest, and that's simply because right now in our renderer, when we can click over here for our renderer, the render engine is Eevee, and it's really fast, but the quality isn't as great. But if you really want the best render quality, you click on cycles and GPU compute to make it a little bit faster. And then we've hit F12. We'll come over here and we'll see it takes a fair bit amount of time. Now, by default, with the default settings, it's a little bit, there's quite a bit more of grain in here. So we'd have to increase the render amount maybe to like 500 or 700 to get rid of the grain. Now, the drawback is it will take a little bit longer for it to render, of course, in that manner. So we'll let this go. I want to create another light so that we don't have such hard shadows or in different areas. So if I hit 7, and let's see where our camera's way over here. So with the light selected, Control D, maybe just move it over here. Now we'll go ahead back to our render view, and it should get lighter. Quite a bit lighter, actually, in these in the areas back here, at least, from what we had before. Okay. Now another thing is I want to take the plane or the road. If you make it a little bit different of shade or something to separate it more from the buildings than what it currently is, we can select it and come to Material, hit New, take the base color down quite a bit, maybe around there. And then we'll try F12 again. All right, so that has really, that might even be a tad bit too much. Let me maybe just go up a little bit more so it's not quite as bad, or as much contrast at least. Right here. And by the way, you can't see these right here, so you could choose to leave those in if you want. They don't really make sense. Again, we can just go back to edit mode for those, and we can delete those individually if you really want to. For me, I don't even really care. Maybe I'll just pause and do that. All right, so I like that. We got rid of it, and what we can do now is render it out. So if we go back to our render settings, the render engine that I've used is Eevee, and that just gives us a real quick preview. I actually don't think this is too bad the way this looks in and of itself. If I switch to cycles, for instance, and I'm going to let it go to like 600 samples or so and hit F12, I'll get it over here in view. You're going to see a ton of shadows, and it's just going to give you a different, more realistic appearance if that's the type of look that you want to go for. I'll pause for this, and then we can I'll show you what it looks like after it's done. Now, as you can see, it's almost done being rendered out, but it looks 100% more realistic. But for my preferences, I really kind of like the other view better on the Eevee renderer. Just because this is trying to make something that's not realistic at all appear too realistic, if that makes sense. So I think sticking with the other approach would be better for me, for my uses. You could still use this one if you wanted to, of course. It's just kind of a matter. I'm going to go back to Eevee, though, hit F12. It's going to be done in like a second. And there we go. All right, so I think I'm just going to keep this version right here. So what I'll do is just go to Image and then Save As. And we'll go ahead and save this as a PNG, save as image. All right, I did that off screen. I want you guys looking at my files. And then now we're done with this. So you can save it if you wish. And then we're going to hop into Photoshop real quick. All right, so I've opened this up here in Photoshop, the render that we did. And initially, I was going to go with a real light sort of view for the color. I think we're going to go to opposite approach, and we're going to make this look more like a night scene. And we can do that very easily. So if I go to Image Adjustments, Brightness, and Contrast, and just take the brightness and drop it all the way down, it gives us this look, which is kind of interesting. We can make it darker by increasing the contrast. I think we're going to go right around there. Then just to add the this like a sort of like a GPS trail, I guess you could call it. We're just going to use the pen tool, make sure in your shape mode right there, make sure your stroke is like a kind of like a bright blue color, maybe around 5 pixels. You don't want to fill. Then we'll just kind of imagine where the center of the road would be and try to stick with the angle of the, you know, the road and such. Actually, this is going to have to come down. What we'll have to do probably is end it right there for that line. Hit escape and then come down maybe right here. Right there. So I was just Control Zing to try to get that in a better position. Hit escape. And then I'm not sure if we'll be able to see this one coming down, but we'll do that, I think. All right, so that's kind of interesting. You could go further with it. I mean, you could make all 3 of these glow and stuff. I don't think we're gonna mess with that though. I think we'll just leave it right here as is, and then we'll see what it looks like when we bring it into Adobe XD. So let's go ahead and save this. You could just hit Control Shift Alt and S. And then JPEG 81, that's fine for the quality. So now I'm going to save this as Final Street. And then we'll go into Adobe XD. And by the way, when I was preparing this tutorial, this is what I came up with. See, I did like a light color scene. Well, we're going to do dark. So let's go New. We'll do iPhone XS. All right, and to get a quick idea of what this is going to look like in the context of a phone, let's go ahead and draw out a rectangle. And I'm going to drag from my desktop on the other monitor the Final Street graphic that we chose and just drop it right there. I think this may actually work. We'll see. Let's take the artboard and take the background. Let's get a color here and maybe slightly darker. Let's get rid of this border on the image. And so you can move this around. It's going to affect the size of the image and all that good stuff. We can go ahead and put just like a fake logo up top here, like a GPS tracker. All right. And then we'll go to, I think we'll use Montserrat for this. bold it, scale it. Let's see here. All right, that looks pretty decent right there. We'll put a quick hamburger icon menu right here. Make that white, maybe a size of like, oops, it's like a 2. And then we'll duplicate it, Control D, move it up. Duplicate that one, move that down. All right, there we go. So now we'll group that. Move this thing over. All right, so far so good. So let's have like a little overlay of like a chat blip or something. Something like right around here. We'll center it up. We could make this white, or we can make it blend more. Let's just let's experiment. Let's see. Get rid of that border. We'll get one of these colors here. It could come up slightly lighter, like that. This could work. You could put a big radial gradient as well if you wanted to. Let's just get our avatar up here. Get rid of the border. I hate how it adds a border on everything you add. This gray border, it's always adding a gray border. Stop that, Adobe. We'll put in, for our plugins, usually photo splash here, I think. Person. We'll use her. Oh, that's a really bad photo. There's an avatar plugin, but I think I don't have anymore because I had a new computer. So if I go to Discover plugin and type in avatar or user profile, this is 2 days ago. UI faces, this is the one. Okay. So now we go back to UI faces and the plugins, and we'll choose I don't know, Unsplash. Hit apply. All right, well, there we go. All right, so now we can put in a little chat blip right here. Okay, I guess not too bad. Hey, pick me up. Where are you at? Okay, something like that. Scale this down. We'll take this to medium. I don't know. I'm not sure if I like this mid sort of color because the text doesn't really contrast a ton. So we probably can't go wrong if we go either white or almost real blue like that, and then take this and make this perhaps black like that. I'm next to this building. Something like that. We'll go ahead also and we'll take the pen tool, make this more obvious that it's an actual, what do you call, chat blip of sorts. We'll take a ellipse. We'll make it this blue color. Now, if we move that, we're going to have to move other things around. Not too big of a deal. Right there. All right, so now we have our 3D element that we created from scratch. We can fill out the user interface a little bit more, which I think I'll do without recording it. Maybe we'll just speed it up. All right, and there we go. I just really quickly just added some other BS, you know, to make our fictional app a little bit more polished. All right, so obviously we took this in a couple different routes, basically, just to show you the other one real quickly that I did. Let me save this, open this up. Again, pretty much the same concept, except for it's a light version. But yeah, obviously you have a lot of flexibility in terms of what you create with your 3D as long as you know the app well enough. So yeah, hopefully you learned a lot there. All right, so hopefully you found that useful and you learned something. If you did, make sure to subscribe. Of course, show me anything that you create with Blender in the comments below. I'll check it out. All right, see you guys soon. Goodbye.